Hi, I want to share with you today one of the best techniques I have ever found for interrupting a pattern. And the first thing I'll say is just that we're all creatures of habit, creatures of pattern. And what that means is that there tend to be predictable and reliable ways that we react to certain situations that served us at some point in time. Like the habit or the pattern was created because it made a lot of sense and it kept us in some way safe and stable at a time when we needed that safety and stability. So it was created with really good intentions, and for a while it worked. And then we end up in a situation where we're finding the pattern isn't serving us well anymore. And we know that we want to find a different way. And I'll give you just a couple of examples that come to mind from working with clients. I had one client who was the co-founder of a company, and she had investors, and she found that every time she interacted with a couple of the investors, she felt very defensive. The conversations were really unproductive because she tended to be always entering those conversations from a place of no, whatever you're asking me to do, I can't do it. It's impossible, right? And she knew that was unhealthy. She knew she wanted to be interacting with that investor in a different way, but she was really stuck in the pattern. Another example is a client of mine who was stuck in a loop of thinking that there was always a fire drill and she didn't have time, and there was just sort of never enough time, resources to get things done. And that created a pattern both of that thought, like there's never enough time, there's always a fire drill, that kind of thing. So there's a whole collection of thoughts that were a pattern, but also created a pattern of overwhelm. So as soon as those thoughts started, she started to feel overwhelmed, and that interrupted her ability to make good decisions and feel like she was prioritizing appropriately and that kind of thing. So those are a couple of work-related examples. But there's also plenty of home-related examples and personal examples that I've worked with on for clients and in my own life. Patterns where, I don't want to keep testing my partner about whether he's going to take responsibility for certain things or not, but I just can't help myself. I just am always laying down tests, and he's always falling short. And so there's a pattern, right, of me laying down a test and him falling short, right? We're stuck in a pattern. So I've definitely had a client come to me with that kind of a challenge. The other pattern that I personally relate to is that, as most of us, I've had a complex relationship with money, that started from a young age, started from my family's own complex relationship with money. And as a result of that, when my partner and I would start talking about financial issues, I would often enter that conversation in a pretty defensive posture, right? So there's a pattern that doesn't feel good. So once you decide that that pattern is no longer helping you the way that it once was, there's a whole journey, right, to breaking down the pattern, creating a new pattern in its place. But when you're really serious about making change, the most important thing is that you create a little space in the moment that the pattern is happening that gives you the option to respond differently. And the best way to create that space that I have found is a really simple breathing technique, either called a 4x4 or a 5x5. And it's a practice where you count an inhale, a 4 count or 5 count inhale, and then a 4 or 5 count exhale. Now, some people do something called box breathing, which is similar in that you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold your breath for 4 counts, and then you exhale for 4 counts, and you hold your breath for 4 counts. So you can see how that creates like a box. This is just 4x4. So we're just breathing in for 4, natural natural transition at the top into an exhale, no holding. So it's a really simple practice. If you do that breath for a minute, technically, if you do that breath for 36 seconds or something is the science, but let's say you do it for a minute. If you do that breath for a minute, you will really change the chemistry in your brain so that that you're no longer in a fight or flight reaction, which that pattern is almost certainly a fight or flight reaction. You're no longer in that threatened state, and you're more in a state of safety so that you can examine the circumstances and the actual facts of what's happening in a different way. And when I say the facts of what's happening, I also mean the facts of the emotion that might be going on in the conversation too. But so the core technique is 4x4 breathing. And I will make a second video just doing a minute of 4x4 breathing, so it could be a guide for you if you want to give it a try the next time that you notice that you're activated. I would also encourage you to practice this breath in sort of smaller moments of pattern. So for example, if every time you look at your email, you get a little feeling of overwhelm, then look at your email and then do a minute of breathing, right? Whenever you notice that feeling of overwhelm turns on, go ahead and give this breathing a try. So good luck. Can't wait to hear how it goes for you.